Well, hello, 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 and welcome to The Difference Makers. I'm your host, Jacqueline Grant, and we are here for a very special episode of The Difference Makers that is going to make a difference in your life. We are here to talk about how to bust those bad habits, those things that we've been working on, things we've been trying to accomplish in our lives that just don't seem to get done. We fight them over and over again. It's like going around that mountain over and over again, and we want to make sure that we help you to overcome them. Our guest today is Elena Perella, and she is going to share with us how to overcome these particular issues that we've been facing. So let's talk about those unhealthy habits we're trying to get rid of. Our guest today helps all types of professionals, and even if you're not a working professional, just the daily things that we go through on a daily basis that is called life. She helps them to eliminate those unhealthy habits like overeating, procrastination, smoking, overworking, and many, many more. And she helps them to do this so that they can live their best lives with passion and purpose, and not only just for themselves, but for their children as well. And she does this through a very extensive research that she's done, and we want to hear all about it when she comes. So if you are here with us live, please put into the chat what questions you might have. She has done this independent research on her own and on her own particular story, her own story. She's going to share with us about her transformation, and she has coached herself through severe depression, through eating disorders, domestic violence, and her experience has brought her to such a time as this to be here with us on The Difference Makers to show you about her journey and how to discover how to break through all these different challenges. And as a result, she's created a program to help people experience their own transformation and break free in the areas where they feel stuck. So I'd love for you to help me bring to the virtual stage Elena Perella. Welcome, Elena.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you for having me here and for the lovely introduction. Thank you.
Well, we are so glad to have you here. We are so happy to have you. And you are here all the way from Italy, Italia.
Yes, Italia.
And what time is it? Well, we're here live. We're here live on LinkedIn,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
live on Facebook, and on YouTube. Yeah. But we are always here live for you, 12 noon Eastern time, 12 noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific. And what time is it for you in
6
p.m.?
It's 6 p.m. here.
6 p.m.
Yes,
so
6 p.m.
You've already gone through the day that we're starting. So yes. How was it? How was the day?
Good. Very good day.
Very good. Very good. So the question of the day is always, how are you making a difference in the lives of others with your passion and your service?
I am making a difference through raising awareness on topics that are very important in our lives and helping people understand their problems from a different perspective so that they can solve them differently.
So in what way does that make a difference as far as where someone was before they met you and once you've worked with them, where they are afterwards?
Yes, people come to me because they have something inside that doesn't make them live serenely. There are obstacles that they face every day in their lives, and like bad habits, destructive habits, self-harming habits, and we believe that those habits are our choice. This is what has been said until now. If we smoke, it's our choice. If we overeat, it's our choice, our fault. Well, during my journey, I have understood that it's not our fault and it's not our choice.
So whose fault is it? Whose choice is it?
Yes, it's not a matter of fault. It's not a matter of choice. It's that we inherit from our parents and family a toxic inheritance. We inherit the good, the bad, and the toxic. Yeah. And the toxic inheritance is a toxic legacy made of emotions, beliefs, tendencies, unresolved childhood issues, inner conflicts, and much more that um, we manifest in our lives in the form of behaviors. Yeah?
Hmm.
And that inheritance, that toxic inheritance, has the control over our behaviors. Yeah? We cannot control it. It is stronger than we are. And this is the cause for our self-harming habits. And it's not our fault or our choice, because actually we are not so stupid to choose to hurt ourselves, right?
Mhm.
And this toxic inheritance forces us to display those behavior, to sabotage ourselves and our lives.
So let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
I've studied and I've heard and I've learned over the years that we have muscle memory, we have cell memory. If for example, if someone gets a transplant of a body portion, a muscle organ, a body organ, and sometimes certain traits of that person who's provided the organ,
Mhm.
the person who receives the organ can feel or experience some of the things because the muscles or the cells have some memory to it. Is that
Absolutely.
something you believe in?
I think it is possible because,
Mm-hmm.
it is also a matter of genetics,
Mm-hmm.
We are not, we are a product of a genetic inheritance,
So
and
is
so
that
of an
some,
emotional
sorry,
inheritance.
an emotional inheritance? So is that a similar type of thing where from ourselves, from our parents and our grandparents, whatever they experienced is whatever they have experienced has translated through the generations to us, that these are some of the things we're battling? Is that
Yes,
an
yes,
interpretation of what you're sharing?
yes, yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So how do we overcome that? How do we change it?
First of all, we have to understand that it's because of this inheritance that we are who we are. We have inherited good things, but unfortunately also things that are less good, not
Mm-hmm.
pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
And once we understand this, and we understand that our self-harming behaviors are actually not our choice, not our fault, then first of all, we let go of guilt, because we feel guilty often. Mm. And this is a relief already. And then we can identify those elements, a toxic emotion, a toxic tendency, a toxic belief. And once you identify it, you can target it and free yourself from it.
Hmm.
And once you free yourself from the toxic element, then you don't have to be afraid that that behavior will come back, because it won't. You have eliminated the cause, the root cause.
So does it take just one of these experiences to identify it and get rid of it? Does it work just the first time, or is it something you have to do over and over again?
It depends on the person. Sometimes it can happen all at once. Sometimes it's a process. Often,
Mhm.
I think it is a process. For me, it was a process. Yes.
Okay. So can you share with us, maybe in baby steps,
Mhm.
one of the things that you addressed for yourself and how you went through it from identifying it to working through it to where you are today?
Mhm. For example, overeating. I suffered from eating disorders. First, the binge eating, and then bulimia nervosa. And in the beginning, I really didn't know where they came from. And at one point, I realized that those were a manifestation of my family's toxic emotional inheritance, in particular, my mother and my grandmother. And because they had a troubled relationship with food, especially my mother. But in her, it didn't manifest in the same way as in me.
Mhm.
Once I understood that, I looked for the meaning of overeating, and I discovered two. First, it was I overate because I wanted to fill in an emptiness inside, and that was the lack of self-love. a toxic element. And the second one was I wanted to suppress emotions that I didn't want to feel. So this is why I ate so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what did you do? Again, step by step, you identified it, you understood. Then what?
Then I encouraged myself every day to, for example, choose for healthy foods. This was one thing that I did because I ate a lot of junk food.
Mm-hmm.
I try to find, for example, a diet that could help, but I understood that diets don't help. You have to create a own healthy lifestyle, which is different
Okay.
than a diet because
Yeah.
diet is restriction.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to create a healthy lifestyle. And I worked on my energy, my heart. I had emotional wounds. I identified those. And because my mother couldn't love me as she would have done in different circumstances. So I didn't receive mother love. And I had to become my own mother.
Mm.
So I reparented myself. And
Wow.
by reparenting myself, becoming the adult that I needed when I was a child, I began to heal my emotional wounds. And it was a kind of miracle, if we can call it that way, because it really helped. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yes.
So, without going into too much detail,
Mhm.
how long did you have to parent yourself, or are you still parenting yourself?
Well, I am still. Once you become the parent that you needed when you were a child, you will be it forever.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
so you will always be your own child and your own parent.
Okay. Very interesting concept. Now, earlier you talked about doing research. Can you share a little bit with us about the research that you did and what was the outcome?
Mhm. Yes, what I did, what I'm still doing is reading about behavior.
Mhm.
For example, I love reading about behavioral biology. There is a great professor in the US, it's Professor Sapolsky, and he works with baboons, but he does a lot also with humans.
Uh-huh.
And he explained genetics and the interaction between genes and the environment. And this helped me a lot to understand better human behavior, for example. I read also about psychology. There is a great, well, he died. He was a psychologist and a psychiatrist, a British one. And his name is Bowlby, John Bowlby.
Mhm.
He
Mhm.
wrote the theory of attachment, for
Mhm.
example,
Mhm.
mother and child, how important it is, the attachment between a mother and the child. If it is secure, then the child will grow up feeling safe. It will grow up confident, emotionally strong. If it is not secure, then this will have repercussions in the life of the child. Yeah.
It's very interesting how those formative years, those early years, form such a hold, positive or negative, on our psyche and how we think about
Yes.
things, how we interpret things, and how we react to things.
Hmm.
So, can you share a bit with us about maybe someone that you've worked with and what their circumstance might have been? Of course, naming no names, but
Hmm.
can you share where they were before they met you and how you worked with them and what was their outcome?
Yes. For example, a woman who was experiencing a toxic relationship,
Mhm.
and she was desperate. She came to me and said, Elena, help me because I am destroying my children's life. Was powerful, and I thought, okay, let's see what happens. And
Mhm.
in 1 year, she could um, leave her man, her husband,
Mhm.
without creating conflict. That was very, very important because it was a delicate situation. She could reorganize her family, because their children went crazy in that situation. They were between two fires, and she didn't know anymore how she could handle them and help them. And little by little, she found the peace inside, because she began to heal her emotional wounds that allowed that man, that violent man, into her life. And step by step, their children began to feel the change in their mother,
Yeah.
and they began to react in a positive way to that situation, to the change. Yes.
And where is she
And
now?
then she's working. First of all, she didn't have a job at the time, so she needed support for that too. She's working. She's separated. Her man left her without making too much problems. And she has her children with her. And well, she is happy now. She's dedicating her life to help them grow and to make peace with what happened also. Yes, but she's
So
free. She's free.
she's
This is
free.
what happens with my clients. Yeah.
And that's such a wonderful word, being free. A
Yes.
very nice four-letter word, right?
Yeah.
Being
Yeah.
free.
Right.
So she went from turmoil, conflict, confusion, not only for herself and her children,
Yes.
to working with you, getting clarity, getting focus, getting a plan of action in place internally as far as her thought process, and externally as to what to do. That also
Yes.
impacted how her children reacted. And now she is employed,
Yeah. Yeah.
separated from the
Separated.
violence
Yes.
and the person who created the violence,
Yeah.
better relationship with her
Yes.
children, better
Yes.
relationship with herself. So that's quite a transformation, quite a
Yes.
transformation. So do you consider yourself a transformational leader, a transformational coach? What do you consider yourself?
Oh, I've never thought about it. Yes, I definitely help people free themselves so that they can really get in touch with who they are,
Yeah.
and they can experience real freedom, because once you detoxify from this inheritance, then you know what freedom is. You won't get conditioned anymore from the outside sources. You will know the truth. You will be able to read your internal instruction manual, because we all have that.
Tell us about that. What is that
Yeah.
in your thought process?
It is about us, how we function, and why we function in that way. And it is about our mission in life, why we are born, and how we have to live. All the instructions are inside of us, so we actually don't need much from the outside.
So how do you figure it out? How do you learn how to read your own instruction manual?
Because I detoxify myself from my family's toxic emotional inheritance. I am a free person now, and it was a process, as I said. And yeah, you can feel the truth. You will know the truth once you are free, and you can read your instruction manual. You will let your body guide you to stay healthy, in how to stay healthy, how to nourish it, for example. There won't be any temptation anymore, because it won't attract you anymore. You will live in I call it harmonious synergy with yourself, your environment, the world. It doesn't mean that you won't have problems anymore, but they won't be anymore related to that toxic inheritance. And you will have the clarity to see the solutions, for example.
Okay. Well,
If you
no, go ahead.
and if you you will have your negative emotions, because we are made of positive and negative. The toxic will be away, and you will accept your negative emotions. You will experience them without sinking in the drama, for example. You will embrace them.
So give us an idea of who you love to work with. Who is the best type of client for you?
I work with the C-suite professionals. Yes,
Mhm.
this is. I would like to work with the C-suite professionals. I have because they have a well. We all have an important role in life, you know. Um, and I relate myself to them because I have a tough personality. It's not clear for everybody that I have that tough personality. I can be straight, I can be sarcastic, I can be gentle and kind, and I look for this kind of people
Mhm.
that uh, are warriors. Perhaps I can define them as warriors and are struggling to come out, you know, to shine, to let themselves be seen as they are warriors with a heart.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. You can't be an entrepreneur or a leader or a C-level executive or even the head of a household
Yeah.
without having some strength and
Hmm.
some here's a word for you that's not really a word, but some stick to itiveness. You have to be able to stick to what your goals are and make sure that they
Yes.
happen one way or another. And
Yes.
so,
Hmm.
how can people get in contact with you if they'd like to know more?
They can write me. They can write an email to me. The email is info@sentido.com.
Repeat it for us one more time and spell it.
Yes, info@sentido is SENTEDU.
Okay, we'll put that in the chat as well,
Mhm.
everyone. We'll put that
Okay,
in the chat
perfect.
shortly
Yes,
after the show renders. But I encourage you to at least have a conversation with Elena to make sure that you are on the track to busting those things that are keeping you stuck. Nobody likes to feel
yes.
stuck.
No.
And so contact Elena. She'll be able to at least give you some feedback as to your situation and if she can help. So, Elena, what else would you like to share? For example, some tips or some guidance that you might have for someone to
Mhm.
know whether they're really stuck or not. Because sometimes we've been stuck for so long, we just think that's the way it is and that's the way it's meant to be. How can someone tell whether they're truly stuck, and what other tips might you have for us?
Yes, I have a very powerful technique that can help you start. It's a technique that you can use when you experience a toxic emotion. So, an emotion that forces you to sabotage yourself. Toxic anger, toxic sadness, toxic anxiety. So, when you experience this emotion, close your eyes, you know, put a hand on your heart, close your eyes, and visualize yourself as a sweet, innocent child. And talk to the child and say, "Forgive me if I wasn't there for you before." And talk to the child until you feel calm.
Mhm.
And you can repeat it twice, three times, as often as you need. It sounds simple, but it's very powerful because it helps you heal your emotional wounds and it helps you get started.
So is that
Yeah.
you as an adult talking to yourself as a child?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
all right,
absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
I've seen
Yes.
similar types of exercises,
Yes.
uh,
Hmm.
somewhat the same
Yeah.
point, but it was where you experience something as a child
Hmm.
and you take 3 or 4 steps forward, you turn around
Hmm.
and you look at yourself as that
Hmm.
child and speak to that child. So similar concept. So
Yes.
I know that it works because I've experienced it and I've seen it multiple times in other
Hmm.
environments where obviously it works. It works. So any other tips that you might share with us?
There is another technique. Yes. It's for when you feel the impulse to, for example, overeat, smoke, to abuse alcohol, just pause
Mhm.
and breathe. Take a deep breath, hold it for a few seconds, and
Mhm.
then breathe out. And in this way, you will breathe the impulse out, that toxic energy.
Interesting,
Yeah. And
interesting,
you can do
interesting.
this twice, 3 times, as often as you need it. Yeah. Until that feeling, that impulse is gone, that you feel calm.
Do you have any items that someone can download? Any downloadable tip sheets or anything that
Not
if
yet.
some,
It's a work in progress. Yes, I
okay,
have a beautiful blog where there are interesting articles that are an eye opener, and some interviews, some podcasts, and I am preparing everything. Yes,
okay.
for yeah.
Well, if you would like to see what Elena already has available,
Mhm.
Elena, would I ask you to please put into the chat once this
Yes.
show is over, put it
Mhm.
into the chat so people can know where to find your
Okay.
blog and to be able to contact you as well. And I know that that's a resource that we could all use because the things that you
Mhm.
mentioned about procrastination, overeating, smoking, what else do you focus in on?
All those bad, unhealthy, toxic habits,
Mm-hmm,
self-harming habits.
mm-hmm.
Yes, it can
And
be
especially
overworking. It can
overworking, yeah.
be having difficulties in communicating with your children, which is
Mm-hmm.
it can be a repeated pattern. It can be finding yourself in toxic relationships over and over again, or changing job and finding yourself in the same toxic environment over and over again, those things that
Understood.
repeat themselves.
And we
Yeah.
know the definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. So you can even help us to break that pattern of expecting a different result, but doing the same thing.
Yes.
You can help us to shift and do something new to get something new. Elena
Yeah.
Pereira, thank you so much. Any
You're
closing
welcome.
words that you have for us as we close out this session of The Difference Makers?
I would like to say, don't give up on yourself. Just open your mind and learn to really love yourself, to see your problems from a different perspective, because
Mhm.
there is a solution to solve them permanently. Yes.
Permanently. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Elena.
You're welcome.
You are definitely a difference maker, and you make a difference to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jacqueline. It
Thank
was a
you.
pleasure. Thank you.